Hello? God's sake, come on, wake up. Hello? Right, I'm going to talk about the future, what to do about it, or how to do something you might actually feel proud of in your life. Because it's important, because you're going to go and work somewhere, and do you know what? Most people hate their jobs. No, most people hate their jobs. This is the report that's done every year. 23% of people actually engage with their jobs. So that means 77 people don't like the work they do. In the UK, actually it's even worse. 90% of people don't like the jobs they do. They're not engaged. Of course, your teachers aren't like that, are they? Well, it turns out most teachers aren't engaged with their work, are they? And this is problematic, okay? Because if engagement goes down, it affects your mental health, of course. You don't like your job, you get stressed, what's happening? And the less engaged you are, the more your mental health suffers, and therefore your physical health. And you end up dying early. Okay? And it's going to get worse. Because the world's in an absolute state. And one of the reasons is because we do jobs that are destroying the environment. So I'm going to talk to you about the state of the world. And in the world I live in, we call this a long emergency. So just very quickly, this is the world you're going to grow up into. This will be depressing. I'll cheer you up at the end, okay? So this is where we are. Democracy in retreat. Everywhere in the world, democracy in retreat. So we're still using the same system of democracy we invented 200 years ago. Haven't changed it. And that's why it's failing all over the world. Inequality at the highest levels ever recorded in history. This is hugely problematic. Geopolitically, destabilises everything. It's the worst it's ever been. Healthcare systems are not healthcare systems, they're really expensive sick care systems. But you don't get paid if you're already sick. We're destroying the world's soils. So we're losing billions of topsoil every year. And when that goes, that's the end of civilization, as we know it. You know, rather than humanity. Biodiversity collapse. Which is happening all around us, you'll be aware of it. There's another line in this report that the UN wrote, which is that we're in a war with nature, and we're winning. That should terrify you. Pandemics, you all had to enjoy COVID, didn't you? You have this zoonotic virus crossing over into the human world once every 4 months now. Because as we encroach on nature and we damage it, and we don't pay respect, you end up with these viruses crossing from animals, 1 every 4 months. So the last pandemic is not the last pandemic of your career. Okay, in fact the next one will probably come in the next 10 years, if not sooner. And it's not that we didn't know this. I did a TV programme with my friend John, and where we talked about this in September 2019. But governments didn't prepare because, well, it's expensive that, isn't it? And so, 340 people died, but 100,000. That's an important figure, remember that when I speak a bit later. And of course, this is all tied up with climate change. Well, you have unprecedented changes in the climate. Some of them irreversible, including sea level rise, because once you stick the heat into the system, nothing you can do about it. And how much heat are we putting in? 4 Hiroshima bombs worth of heat every second. It's good, isn't it? Oh, by the way, think about your finances, as the previous speaker was talking about, because your finances, the financial system, is powerless. Because we don't account for the environment, and the environment is sending back invoices, as Johan Rockström says. Those invoices look like floods, wildfires, hurricanes. And it's costing us billions of pounds to repair that stuff, regardless of the humanitarian cost. And so this is why we don't like our jobs, because we all know we're working for a system that is somehow destroying our future. And so your salary will not be reward, but bribery. Bribery is to get about the fact that you're working for somebody else whose wealth will protect them from the worst effects of this, which is destroying our own future. We are kicking holes in the side of our own spaceship, and we all feel a bit bad about it, but we don't know what to do. We all feel a bit complicit and helpless. Because you go, yeah, I kind of understand that we're ruining the environment, destroying the future, and all that stuff is going on, but it's also how I pay my mortgage, how I pay my rent, how I feed myself. So what do you like me to do? Nicely summed up thing by this brilliant cartoon by Tom Toro. Yes, the planet got destroyed, but for a beautiful moment in time, we get a lot of value for shareholders. So when you think about your investments, which you revised a little bit earlier, what are you investing in? And all these things are not sort of separate. We all know that. We know about COVID, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in the Middle East. These are all symptoms of an underlying civilizational fragility. Everything is connected. Supply chains, economics, governments, education. We all know this. John Muir, the great ecologist, said it rather well. He said, when you try to pick out anything by itself, you find it's hitched to everything else in the universe. And the fundamental problem we have in the world right now is perhaps this, that we study economics without studying ecology at the same time. Nowhere in the world, as far as I can work out, are economists forced to study ecology. That would be like a physician not studying physiology. The root of the word economics is about the home. Economics means management of the home. Ecology means knowledge of the home. And yet we manage the home in this financial system. And the people who are managing it have no knowledge of it. And this goes right back to probably one of the founding texts of capitalism. Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. It's a good book, it's interesting, some really interesting thoughts in there. Sadly, there's one thing he doesn't really mention at all, except as something to exploit, which is nature. You know what else he doesn't mention, really, very much? Women. Or domestic work, or parenting, as if these have no value to the economy. Which is a bit ironically, because his poor mother served him 3 meals a day for a few years while he sat in her house writing that book. Sexist idiot. So, do read Wealth of Nations, but afterwards perhaps you should also read this book, Who Cooked Adam Smith's Dinner, and then perhaps read a book written by an ecologist and a woman, don't economics, because this is the system we probably need. Do not let anybody trick you into thinking the world you're going to go into is going to last very much longer. And so, it's got to now consider a career in organised crime, government and private sectors. This world we have built is an organised crime against our own futures, against the planet, against all the things you care about. And it feels like the apocalypse, doesn't it? It feels like we're living in the apocalypse, and indeed we are. But do you know what the word apocalypse actually means? It doesn't mean the end of everything. It doesn't mean disaster. If you look at the etymology of the word, the root of the word, it means the revealing of the truth, the drawing back of the veil. And you can be offered as many blandishments as you like, a nice posh private education like you have here, as much money as you like, don't work in the financial sector if you like, and they can tell you to forget about this. It does not stop the truth. I think it's all quite nicely summed up by William Burroughs, the great author, who once wrote, after one look at this planet, any visitor from outer space will say, what does it imagine? Can you imagine what an alien coming to look at this planet would think about what we're doing to it? And to each other. Forcing people to work in jobs that they hate, that destroy the future, the spaceship on which they travel. It's a complete madness. Imagine, I do think sometimes, imagine what would happen, like, say, alien arrives and the captain of the spaceship turns to their science officer and says, can you tell me what they're doing down there? And you'd have to go, well, top line is, Captain, they turn environmental degradation into short-term profit for a very small number of all money. Now, it is quite depressing. But I'm with Edward Abbey, the ecologist, says, better a cruel truth than a comfortable delusion. You don't want to go to the doctor with a cough and he tells you, oh, you've just got a little bit of an infection, you've got lung cancer. You have to know the truth if you want to get better. As Philip K. Dick, the great science fiction author, once wrote, reality is that which when you stop believing it, doesn't go away. And the thermodynamics of climate change are real. Biodiversity collapse is real. The iniquities of our financial system are real. That is not going away, however much you would like it to, as I would like it to. But that is the world we have built, and now we have to do something about it. So it's time for you guys to do what you do best. You are teenagers entering into a world destroyed by your parents' and your grandparents' generation. So you have to do what teenagers are famous for all over the world. Rebel. And I don't mean like this. Because that's boring. That's what your parents' generation did. They rebelled with the easy comforts of drugs and alcohol and consumption, thinking that was rebellious. Now you have to rebel by thinking better, thinking differently. I wrote this book, we use things differently, full of people who thought new ways of doing education, economics, healthcare, and they succeeded. You rebel like these people, or like this. This is the sunflower revolution in Taiwan. A bunch of hackers, teenagers, young people, stormed the government parliament, took it over, because the government was passing legislation without due consultation with the people. And what did they do? They televised it. They went through the legislation. They said, we think this. And then they formed a whole new system of government based on participation with the people. It's in Taiwan right now. Oh, that's Stormzy. That's Stormzy. This is the Taiwanese revolution. Right? How can you forget about Stormzy? Very good. It's brilliant. But again, rebelling. Okay? This is what we need. Now, why is this Taiwanese thing important? Because the death rate in Taiwan when it came to COVID was 74, not 100,000. As a direct result of how they govern the country. Which means this country had 180,000 needless deaths due to poor management and leadership because we haven't bothered to change the system. So my friend Brian, who's a record producer and artist, says this rather wonderful thing. He says there are two stages to a revolution. Stage one, where everybody knows that it's wrong. And then there's stage two, where everybody knows that everybody knows that it's wrong. And you all know that this world is broken and we have to fix it. So don't spend your life being a weapon in defense of the status quo. I'm going to teach you the secret of happiness that comes from this man. This is Daniel Dennett. He's a philosopher and quite a good Christmas impersonator. And Daniel says if you're a philosopher, one of the difficult things is you get asked difficult questions at parties. So you find out, people find out as a philosopher, they go, oh, all right, Daniel, what's consciousness? He's like, come on, it's my night off. So there's another question he gets asked though, is what's the best definition of happiness? He says, I've got an answer for that. The best definition of happiness I've ever found is this. Find something more important than you are and dedicate your life to it. Find something more important than you are and dedicate your life to it. Because you know the people who just talk about the things that are the same size as themselves. All they can talk about is their kitchen extension or where they went on holiday or what they're going to do when they retire. The walking corporate dead, as I like to call them. I'm pretty sure this doesn't happen. You have to rebel. And people say, that's a bit scary, I don't like these new ideas. Well, I'm with John Cage, the artist. Not some people are frightened by new ideas, it's the old ones that should scare us because they brought us to the brink of civilizational and ecological collapse. And you might be thinking, well, I'm just me. I'm getting me, I'm just a teenager, I'm just one teenager, and maybe I'm at a rich posh school. What can I do? And every client I work with, whether it's a school child, or a government minister, or a CEO, I always remind them of the timeless wisdom Alice Walker, the great American novelist, who said, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have it. What you do matters. Every decision you make ripples out across time and history and touches everybody that you come into contact with. John Muir was right. Everything is hitched to everything else. You are hitched to everything else in this universe. And the future needs you. Jane Goodall said this rather brilliantly. What you do will make a difference. You just have to decide what kind of difference it is you want to make. Now the good news is, if you dedicate your life to doing something bigger than yourself, to sorting out this mess, I guarantee you're going to have more fun. As my great friend Ed Gillespie says, if you want to subvert the status quo, you've got to have more fun than those other people are having, and let them know you're having more fun when you do it. Because the people I hang out with, the activists, the entrepreneurs, the people who are changing the systems, I tell you what, they go to better parties, they drink nicer cocktails, they have more sex more often with more interesting people. That doesn't get you into the future. I don't know what will. Thanks very much for listening.